All right, welcome to Comfortably Uncomfortable. You've got Sandy and Alex here, and we are here to empower women to choose courage over comfort by getting comfortably uncomfortable. We get real and cut through the bullshit. Are you ready to get a little weird? Because we're going to laugh, sweat, cry, and grow together.
No topic is going to be TMI. Well, maybe for me, but not for Sandy. We complement each other in that way. Okay, so are we ready?
Well, yeah, duh, I am, but are you?
Okay, let's go.
The one with the motivation. I'm not going to say this is another word that triggers me because I feel like every episode is like that. But I know it's horrible. But what I'm going to say is I think motivation is overrated, is what I'm going to say. This is actually something I studied in my master's at University of Kansas, and this whole idea of motivation and behavior change. I mean, come on, you can't Google motivation or look on Instagram without being like, Motivational Monday. Here's your motivational quote. I don't really mean to sound so condescending when I say that, because there are a lot of quotes that I love, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But the reason why I bring it up, and again, this is a great segue from our last episode that we were just talking about pretending and like sitting in the dirty water, is that motivation runs out. Like motivation doesn't magically appear every Monday and then take you through the week.
Which is why you need it every Monday.
I guess, but I wake up every Monday. I'm like, well, shit, the motivation fairy didn't show up this Monday.
I had it last night when I went to bed, and it's just not here at 6 a.m.
What happened? And like I can get all theoretical and talk about the different types of motivation, and there's like lots of theories. So if you are ever interested, hit me up and I'm happy to share with you on that, because people devote their careers on this and studying this.
Right.
But this whole idea of like motivation is the positive, and then here it comes. Accountability is the negative. Like, oh, the accountability is for the weak, but motivation is for the inspired. Like, I call bullshit on that. Like, bullshit.
Yes. No, I completely, I have to agree. And I caught myself a little bit when we were prepping for this episode, though, because I never really thought myself about accountability being a bad thing or having a negative connotation.
I mean, that's how I take, like, when I talk about it, or when people have talked about it to me, like on one-on-one appointments, you know, I'm like, what do you want to do this? Like, how can I support you? And they're like, accountability. And I'm like, why do you say it like that?
Yeah.
Like, why?
And I guess maybe for me, when I'm checking in with a client and I'm like, how are you doing? Even if it's not all sunshine and rainbows, you know, it's like, this is great. Keep going. Keep doing the good stuff. And the accountability for me is so positive because that's what I love, that interaction, that check-in, that, you know, keep doing the good and like working on everything together. But you're right. Like, it does have this negative air of like, you have to have someone there checking in on you or else it's never going to get done. Like, you couldn't possibly be motivated enough to get it done yourself.
Well, and to answer you that, I'm like, I am not motivated myself to get that done because I'm exhausted. I am freaking exhausted. Yeah. So I'm going to need accountability because that's what's going to keep me going. And why, again, is that bad?
So bad.
It's not. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you couldn't do it. To me, it's like you're wise. You're noticing all the things in your plate and saying, yeah, I want to take that and I want to outsource it. And I want somebody to check in on me or make sure that every week I'm like, yep, okay, this is what happened this week. I'm going to do it this week, you know, or how am I going to change? How am I going to do this? Because like in an ideal world, absolutely, I'd want to have intrinsic motivation to do all the things, to have that internal reasons of aligning with my values and simply just having the pleasure of doing it. Yeah, no, like it sounds ridiculous, right? Yeah, no, like I guess at some point, I hope, and in seasons of life that will happen. But if you are in this stage of whatever life you're living, and you just don't feel inspired by that Monday motivational quote, well, guess what? You're not alone. Like
Nope,
those just don't
certainly.
aren't the magic potion.
No. I love laughing at them, or I
They're
don't know, I think
good. They're
what
great.
gets me more is maybe not the Monday motivations, it's like the um stressed out mom, like the ones I can laugh at that are like, okay, yes, someone else is on the same page. Those are what get me motivated more, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, and I just
I
love that.
enjoy those more.
Well, and it's great because like some of the people, like my mentors and things that I see that people laugh at, and they're like, oh yeah, wake up at 5 a.m., get your workout in, and take 30 minutes to meditate and then start your day for work. And then it's like, oh yeah, that's cute. That's cute when like that's not your life and you have
Right.
a dog licking your face and then you have kids waking you up. And it's like,
Mhm.
sure, that cup of coffee,
Mhm.
yeah, I'll drink it warm. Like
Yeah.
that sounds great. It's like,
Yeah.
no, like, and this whole idea of one size fits all when it comes to motivation. And this is going to continue to be our theme or thread throughout every single episode we record of like, you gotta figure out I mean, this is what I mean of like sitting in your dirty water and not pretending because what works for someone else
Mhm.
may not work for you, and that's okay. That's
Totally.
normal. You aren't expected. I mean, I guess we do. This is what we do to ourselves. We should on ourselves
Should.
and expect that this sort of quote unquote motivation is going to work for me. I mean, this is why like
Right.
clients come to me and they're like, well, I was able to do the whole 30 and then I was able to do the 30-day challenge, but now I'm here again. And I'm like, okay, well, do you think that worked for you? Well, for those 30 days. Okay, well
Mhm.
then great. Like that's what worked for that, but let's explore other things cuz like when you dig into
Yeah.
motivation, there's people who are motivated by rewards and incentives. Hi, our entire built society of marketing, rewards and
Mhm.
incentives. Then we go to the complete opposite, which is this fear of consequences, right?
Right.
I mean, this is parenting 101. I feel like most parents motivate their children out of reward and incentive or
Uh-huh.
fear of
Right. Yep. There you
consequences.
go. Mhm.
And then you go into like achievement. And then this is where I think we want to get there. But again, we have to sit in our dirty water a little bit and not pretend with ourselves and just
Mhm.
kind of really know that it can evolve and change. But then we have growth motivation and power. And then there's like this whole idea that overcompasses everything, which is this like social factor of wanting to like belong, right?
Right.
So here are all these different kinds of motivation, yet what do we mostly see? Rewards and incentives, right?
Yeah.
Bikini body, right? That's like
Oh,
the
yeah.
number
Okay.
one, right?
Yep. I knew
Stress-free
you had
hack.
somewhere you really wanted to go with this, so I
I was
needed
gonna
to
go with
let
that.
you get there.
Bikini body, stress-free hack. And then or
Uh-huh.
the like the other side, which has really hit me hard recently, just because you know, I will admit, like in my early 20s, when I was first entering the fitness industry, this whole like obesity and overweight and labeling and this
Mhm.
fear of, you're going to have this, you need to avoid this bad thing
Sure.
and so that's why you have to do this, right?
Mhm.
But this is where I'm like, again, if none of those really worked, then F motivation, let's find accountability. And what
Yeah.
does that look like?
Well, and I think it's interesting. This email magically appeared in my inbox actually as we were preparing for this. So um, it timing was amazing, but it was all about motivation. And there's this awesome little diagram, this triangle that's like stages of motivation.
Oh, yep, I've seen that. Yep.
And but what I just thought was so funny is at the bottom, so let's see, there's 7 little points on this mountain, right? To achieve great motivation.
Intrinsic,
But
most likely.
um and celebrating achievements. But what's so interesting to me is that like the first two are all about planning
Mhm.
and goals
Yep.
and setbacks, right? Those are the first two. And then everything else is all about accountability. Now, it
Right.
doesn't really say accountability, it doesn't use that word, but it's like the incentives and tools and support and celebrating
Yes.
small achievements. So it's
Yes.
all accountability and habits is what
Right.
motivation is.
Right.
And so I just, they never use that word, but that's 100%
I
what
mean,
it
I don't know
is.
these
And it's
authors,
so
but I
many,
would say it's because if you ask somebody of like, oh, does somebody have to hold you accountable to that? It's we take it negatively of like, yeah, I do actually,
yeah,
because that's what's going to help me grow. That's what's going to help me continue
yeah.
to get those small achievements or
Hmm.
continue to reward myself. Like
Right.
those are the things. And I think, I mean, we're talking health and fitness, but it comes back to this whole idea of just relationships and communication
Hmm.
of why do we have those conversations with our significant others or our partners or our friends, and when we want to hold each other accountable, we again are like it means we have to talk, right? It's like,
Hmm.
ooh, we have to talk. Yet, can we not have that awkward conversation? Because I don't expect you to read my mind and like
Right.
say, hey, like, what went well, what didn't go well, like, here is why I'm holding you accountable because it hurt my feelings or because it didn't work or I want to try
Right.
something new. And like, can like I know I'm not trying to start a movement or anything because you know I suck at all the hashtags, but I'm like, where did we learn that like accountability was this negative thing? Is it as a kid because we would use fear as
Yeah,
consequences,
right.
like be like,
Maybe.
oh, and we've just
Maybe.
brought that into adulthood?
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I homework like popped into my head when you said that. Like you get in somewhere between an A and an F, right? Like
Yeah,
that's the
the grading.
accountability. So you're very clearly judged on what you've done on due dates and all that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm sure it is just very ingrained. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Not quite sure, but that's what just popped into my head when we were talking
I
about
wonder
that.
if it's the all or nothing. I mean, for me, it comes back to
Yeah,
this whole all or
still.
nothing
Mhm.
mentality of assuming that, in 30 days, we're going to fix everything,
Mhm.
and like how many
Mhm.
times, I don't know, there's lots of things out there that say like 21 days. If you do a
Yeah.
habit for 21 days,
Right,
it
right, right,
becomes,
right, right.
and it's like, sure, like that's what research shows. It takes
Yeah.
that many days for it to do that. But then at the same time, it's like, no, like you're
No.
gonna get a
No.
quote unquote setback, like you
Yeah.
said. And so
Yeah.
for me, the true marker of like motivation is that you just keep going. Like
Yeah.
you adjust, you keep going, you find ways to hold yourself accountable, but
Mhm.
not needing it to be so dark, not needing it to be so negative of like,
Right.
if it's calling me, calling you, having a coach, great. If it's setting a timer on your phone,
Mhm.
great. If it's
Right.
having a check-in with your therapist or like
Yeah.
why is accountability a negative thing, or like asking your significant other, your partner, and be like, hey, can you remind me to
Yeah.
do this? Like,
Right.
I don't even have that expectation for myself to remember. I mean, come
Yeah.
on, like,
Yeah. So I think then that's what you have to do and be that example for, and continue on this positive track that, accountability is this wonderful thing and everyone needs it.
yeah. And I mean, I think too, it just comes back to like, when we were talking about practice or progress makes no, what was it? Progress.
Keep going.
Practice makes progress. Oh
Yep.
my
Yep.
gosh. Okay, there we go. Oh, because I hated the whole practice makes
Uh-huh.
perfect of just this idea of like practicing, and
Yeah.
so knowing and giving ourselves grace and knowing that
Mhm.
you're anything is going to need to take practice. And I always use this example. Maybe newer generations won't get it, but like when I was a kid, I could tell you every single kid on my block's phone number, like their home
Wow.
phone number.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that's
Yeah, well,
just
cuz
what
you
you
had
did.
to, right.
You
Yeah.
practiced it every day.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
knew whose phone number you were just going to call and you just knew.
Yeah.
I, I now I don't even know my best friend's phone number by heart.
Right.
Like I'm
No.
like, what? Like this is horrible. And it comes down to this. It's not horrible.
No.
It's that I don't practice it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to have certain things happen or change or grow,
Yeah,
those are the things you're going to have to practice consistently. And we can't
totally.
wait for the motivation to be there. Like,
Yeah,
this is where I have nothing wrong
yeah,
with like
yeah.
rewards and incentives.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. But
Yeah,
what are you going to do when that runs out? You got
right,
to then pick something else. Either you,
right.
and this is where I know many people who are like the constant goal setters,
Yeah.
and come back to this whole idea of goals, and we're going to come back to
Mm-hmm.
this whole idea of why I think habits are better and all
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
It's because there's going to hit a time where like you just got to keep setting goals, and if that's
Yes.
you and that works for you, great.
Yes.
I don't know, I guess I'm
Yeah.
a, I don't know, am I a unicorn in this of like
No,
I'm
no, no. I completely agree. And I'm kind of laughing because I was having this conversation with the my like monthly challenge group, and we talk a
mm-hmm.
lot about habits and something that we're all working on. And someone wanted to make their bed every day. I'm like, that's awesome. That's one where the 21-day rule probably applies. Like, this is in my unprofessional opinion, but if you make your bed every single day for 21 days, that feels like something that'll pretty kind of stick. Like, you just get into that routine, but again, it's a routines, it's
Practice.
habits, it's not um and it's practice, but that one's like kind of easy. But if you're like, I want to change my morning routine and wake up at 5 a.m. every day, like, that one's that's a lifetime of practice, in my opinion. Like, it's just not gonna be super motivating every single day, but acknowledging some setbacks, or when it works and when it doesn't work. um
I think
but
for me, it's. I mean, it obviously depends on the person because there's going to be morning
yeah,
people and night owls and all that. I think what comes up is the idea of any practice that you do is going to be 100%, and I think that's why I come back and I
yeah.
just
Oh, I
don't
love
like
that.
the
Good.
whole
Yeah,
perfection thing,
yeah, yeah,
because for me, it's more of like when you get off that practice, right? When you stop doing whatever you're wanting to do,
yeah,
how do you get back into that practice quicker? Right.
yeah.
So rather than
Mm-hmm.
saying like, F it, I fell off the wagon, I'll wait
Yeah.
till Monday to start. Well, why are you waiting till Monday to
Yeah.
start?
Good point. Good
You can
point.
take the deep breath and go, oh, look at that. I held myself accountable. I
Yeah.
didn't do it. Okay. Like, now I will.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, I'm a failure. Like, I do this. Like, I freaking bombed one of my exams and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I should quit PT school. And like, I legit was like, this
Uh-huh.
is bad. And then
Yeah.
I had to do my own little moment of like, okay, Sandy, let's not be so dramatic,
Yep.
one. And then
Please.
B, just be like, okay,
So yeah.
keep going. Try
Moving on.
again tomorrow.
Yep.
But we
Yep.
have this whole thing of like, I had a cheat day, or like somebody's gonna have to hold me accountable for this. It's like, yeah, because we're human
Right.
and because shit happens.
Right. Right. Totally. What, the other thing that I think you'll like, this, another part of this article, though, it was talking about reasons why you might actually lack motivation.
Hmm.
Anxiety,
Oh, yeah.
burnout, depression. I mean, these are
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
like,
Yep.
well, no
Yep.
shit,
Yep.
but low
Absolutely.
self-esteem, poor
Absolutely.
sleep, and stress. So, I mean, obviously we're talking about like, okay, something's got to pick up, motivation only gets you so far. However, you can increase your motivation by, paying attention to these other things, or these things may decrease some of that self
Motivation. Yeah.
motivation in your
Well,
life, and
you
just
just
coming back to
habits. Yeah.
good habits.
Well, and you just brought up a perfect example of like, you just named, okay, what was it? Stress, sleep,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, depression.
Low
I could,
self-esteem.
okay, so I'm pretty sure I could do all of those in my
Yeah,
life right
right.
now.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
the idea of like, I'm going to have to tackle all of these 5
Uh-huh.
before getting motivation, before doing anything else, like, I'm getting more
It is
anxiety
kind
just
of
thinking
like,
about that.
actually,
Like,
listing that. It's like, well, yeah, just life makes you be less motivated. Everyday life. is
Exactly.
pulls
So
from your motivation.
because I'm like, that's probably not in sight. I'm gonna have to work on those. Like sleep is
Mm-hmm.
definitely one that I know I make a priority because I just do. But the
Yeah.
anxiety and the stress and the depression, like, you know, April is a month that's hard for me. It's National Siblings Day, whatever. I didn't know that thing existed, but now I see it all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It's the, birthday of my brother. It's so like the idea of trying to be like, oh, Sandy, just take the month off isn't reasonable for me because
Mm-hmm.
no. Or this, like, oh, I'll just wait till I tackle my stress and anxiety before finding my motivation to
Right.
start this. It's
No.
like, no, well, that's when that comes in of like
Yeah.
find a support group, a support
Yes.
system, or ways to give you little check marks to being like, oh, okay, like I'm stacking my habits. Great. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
start with that.
Yep.
Or this, and or just even having the acknowledgement of what you just said, which is,
Right.
yeah, no wonder I'm not really motivated to do
Right.
anything because oh my
Because life
gosh.
is life and life happens and that's draining you of motivation. So find a great accountability partner.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, shoot, this is where I laugh, but like my dog is a great
Mm-hmm.
one. Um, that might work of like, gotta take him out, gotta take him
Yep.
on a walk, gotta do this. And so finding that works for you. But again, sitting in that dirty water and acknowledging that, if you're gonna keep waiting for motivation to change something or to do something, sit in it. You might not be ready to, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like again, it's okay. You don't have to pretend that you're more extreme than the other. But then at the same time, you can say, oh, I don't have to wait to be motivated. I can set up mechanisms to
Right.
keep me accountable to
Mm-hmm.
help me have that incremental change.
On the path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because girl, what you just said, I was like, oh, I'd be here for a while.
Yep.
So,
No, we don't need to get through all of those things, but I think it's a good acknowledgement of, you know what? It's hard to stay motivated. So,
yeah. And we'll do an episode on sleep because if I was to say pick one,
yes.
pick sleep. Like,
Yes.
y'all, if you're
No
not
one,
sleeping, oh, do yourself a
nothing.
favor. Get into a
Yes.
sleep routine. So, yeah.
Yes. All right, good. Well, we'll end on that hashtag see you motivate.
Sure.
Yeah. And this week, let's just, find an accountability partner or, think about what helps you stay motivated, who can help you. And let's flip that script and make it a positive.
Yeah. Or not. Like, I'll be like, or stay negative. It's fine. You're allowed to.
No,
Alex is like, no, I need you to be
no.
positive. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, it's all right.
I'm going to
Like,
end on sunshine and rainbows today, Sandy.
love you.
Okay. Love you.
Thank you for showing up today. Getting awkward is always more fun with friends. Give us a review, tag us, and share us so we can continue to grow together.
Use hashtag CUPod, letter C, letter U, or tag us. You can find Sandy on Instagram at Sweat and Shine On, and Alex at aj.afterbabyfit on Instagram and After Baby Fit on Facebook and YouTube. We'll see you next time.